Nice to be with you all. Had a few more show up, but did everybody get the 2 copies of the syllabus that we're talking about today? Super. So this is a very interesting class. I don't know how many of you have heard about that. Matt mentioned that the TRID. It's the combination of disclosures. It's going to change the closing procedure that we go through. How many of you have heard about this coming? 1? 2. Okay. Well, you're going to be quite shocked, I think, about what we're going to talk about here today. Let me give you just a little bit of background on how this class began. As Matt mentioned, we do training for both the real estate and the mortgage industries. And the mortgage guys, they have to license every single year. You guys get to do it every other year. And part of the licensing comes from a national government agency called NMLS. They have an 8-hour class. They dictate what has to be in that 8-hour class. So last year, when we were doing this 8-hour class for NMLS and teaching it all to the mortgage guys, there was a 2-hour segment in that, which is this information right here. And in that 2-hour segment, we got looking at it and we think, well, gee, wait a minute. The real estate community needs to know about this too, because it impacts what the realtors are going to be involved in. And so maybe we ought to make this a CE class for real estate people. So I called the state, talked with the people that I work with up there, and I said, we've got this class that we're doing for the mortgage people. What do you think? Should we put it together for the real estate community? And they said, oh man, we're so glad somebody's putting this class together. Yes, please, put it together so we can bring it out to the realtors. So normally it takes 2 to 3 weeks to get a class put together, or I should say, to get it up to the state, and then they respond back. They came back in 3 days and said, yes, please, go do this class. So we've been teaching it a lot over the last few months, and I think you'll see why, because there's some major things coming here. So, we're talking about real estate law update, and what we're going to say here to begin with is there's a new sheriff in town. All right, how many of you have heard of the CFPB? 1. 2. Consumer Finance Protection Bureau is what there is. Well, by the time we're over today, you're going to know a lot about the CFPB, because they are one of the toughest, meanest sheriffs we've ever seen. And I tried to find a tough, mean sheriff, and the worst one I could think of was Clint Eastwood and Hang 'em High.
Marshal, I don't know what kind of time you're going to be.
This isn't my time.
Why wouldn't it? Try this for you. You wash down some trail dust? All right, Marshal, what do you say I done?
You don't remember me, do you?
No.
You better look at him. Don't go for that gun, Reno. I need you alive.
Reno didn't make it through that one. That's kind of the way the CFPB is too. They come in with guns blazing and they make all kinds of accusations. They're arrogant. They feel like, hey, we know what everything is supposed to be like and you're not doing it right. And we're going to talk about that as we get towards the end of the class today too. But the CFPB, they are really tough and they really mean business and they're changing the landscape. They're changing the scene. So this Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, they were created in 2010 through an act of Congress called the Dodd-Frank Act, also known as the Wall Street Reform. You might remember that. The bankers went crazy when that came out. They thought, oh man, your life is coming to an end. Well, it's changing for sure. Their intention at the time that that came out was to stop all of the mortgage fraud that was going on. And they've done a pretty good job at least putting a major dent into it. But now they're starting to expand into other areas. They started in July of 2011, so they've been around 2.5+ years. or 3.5 plus years. And so you'll see they've made a huge impact in the time they've been around. Before the CFPB came, we had this disclosure thing. I'm sorry, what we're going to do is, this is where we're going here today. We're going to talk about this disclosure thing that they are the author of, and we're going to go over an overview of that, which we'll spend most of the time there. We're also going to talk about their enforcement and the examinations that they're doing. You're going to be surprised at where they're going and how many people and how many industries they're influencing. And then for the remainder of the time, we'll talk about some of the laws that have been out there for a long time, but they're now starting to impact the enforcement and getting tough on the enforcement.